What is up, YouTube? My name is Evan, and today I'm going to get to finally bring you a deck I've been wanting to bring you for some time. I am going to bring you Primal Kyogre EX. I just really like this card, and I'm a Kyogre fan too. I'm not as much of a Groudon fan, and that's just it's just a personal taste thing. And card-wise, they're both of course quite interesting, the Primals, but this guy, I just love him so much. He's 240 HP, he's a Mega Evolution, he's got a 4 Energy Retreat and Weakness to Grass, which are the best, but that's okay, because he's got Alpha Growth as his primal trait, which allows you to attach 2 energies per turn to him, instead of just the normal 1. And then his attack is 3 Water and a Colorless for 150 damage, and you have to move 2 energy from this Pokemon to one of your benched Pokemon. But this attack also does 30 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon EX. And that's really relevant, because when you're dealing 30 to those benched Pokemon EX, that means that when they become the new active Pokemon, that's 30 plus the 150 of Tidal Storm's main damage, which is 180. Meaning that anybody who's been hit by the backlash of Tidal Storm should be getting 1-hit KO'd by it. Now I know what you might be thinking. Okay, but the non-EXs aren't even being touched by this. It's like, well, kind of. They're not being touched on the bench, but if they become the new active Pokemon, there are not an abundance of non-EX Pokemon that can take this 150-point hit. And while moving 2 energy around can be a pain, that 150 damage does get you a knockout and secure you a prize card. And we've got ways of dealing with the fact that we're shuffling our energies around quite a bit. So, to get this going, we've got 3 Primal Kyogre EX, and we're also running 3 Kyogre EX. And this guy's actually pretty good. Unlike some Pokemon who are made just to Mega Evolve, this guy's actually pretty good. He's got 180, he's got the same Retreat and Weakness. He's got for 1 Water and a Colorless, he's got Water Pulse for 30, and it has Sleep, which is not, like guaranteed sleep, so it's a coin toss chance of immobilizing your opponent, basically, depending on if they wake up or not between turns. And then he's got, for 2 Water, 2 Colorless, 140 damage, and you return 2 Water energy attached to this poke to your hand. And that's pretty relevant, and we'll see why in a little bit. But this guy can actually hold his own, and that could be good, because if you need answers to, say, Giratina EX, this guy can actually take him on semi-decently by going Water Pulse, deal the 30, potentially immobilize him, and then finish him with Giant Whirlpool on the next turn. So he's actually pretty useful in his own right. Of course, the real question is, how are we going to get that energy up and make this happen? And the answer is this amazing card, Volcarona. We're running 3 Volcaronas, and it's basically just here for its Solar Birth. It's 1 colorless energy, you search your deck for a basic Pokemon and put it onto your bench, and then you search your deck for up to 2 basic energy and attach them to that Pokemon. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So basically we try to get Volcarona up just as soon as we can, attach any energy to him, and then you go get that Kyogre EX and dump 2 water energies onto him right there. The next turn, when you get to your turn, you can go ahead, attach the Spirit Link, Mega Evolve, use that Alpha Growth, boom, right there, you've got your attack ready to go. And this guy conveniently has a 1 energy retreat, meaning that that same energy you used to Solar Birth, you can use to retreat him and get that Primal Kyogre up and attacking very quickly indeed, which is part of what makes this Pokemon so very good. But he can attack for 60 with a Fire and a Colorless, but he does have to discard energy to himself. So, we might end up using that a little bit. I wanted the option to use it because Kyogre's weakness is Grass, and Volcarona can scare a lot of those things. So we do have a Fire energy to actually be able to potentially use our Flamethrower, since we don't have to discard a Fire anyway. This can be an interesting way to deal with Vespiquens and whatnot. And you can always just Solar Birth twice if you'd rather. Lots of ways to take advantage of that guy. We of course have 3 Larvestas to set him up as well. We have one other Pokemon who could be an attacker, and that is Delta Plus Articuno. And yeah, you could solve with your Chilling Side, but it's basically just about Tri-Edge, because this is a great Pokemon to also get set up with Volcarona. You can get him out, get 2 water energies on him, he's practically ready to Tri-Edge right there. Just your next energy attach on your next turn, boom, you're attacking. Picking up those extra prizes can be a great way to deal with opponents who are trying to chump block you with 1 prize Pokemon they're throwing up to buy a few turns. This way you can turn them into 2 prize Pokemon, take advantage of that low HP. Our last 2 Pokemon, we are going to run 2 Shaman EX. I mean, I was tempted to go to 1 in this deck, honestly, but he's just too useful. And we do have ways we can thin our hand out and restocking, and that guy's he's just too good. His setup is just too good. You can't not run him. Alright, And we've got 4 Professor Sycamores for draw power in our supporter line. We've got 1 Professor Birch's Observations. It can be a good Versus Seeker target to draw cards later in the game, especially when you don't necessarily want to discard your hand and or deck out or risk decking out. This card did just get printed in the most recent set, so I'm going to go ahead and run it. We are running 1 copy of Skyla. This can be really useful for getting those certain items. This can go get you Professor's Letter or your Kyogre Spirit Link, etc. So I did decide to opt for it. We're also running Teammates because Volcarona getting KO'd is definitely a possibility. And this way we can really capitalize on it. This is a Versus Seeker target. You send it to the discard pile and hope, basically. And we do run 1 copy of Wally. The idea here is hopefully you can get to Battle Compressor Versus Seeker this guy on your first attacking turn. Assuming like your opponent goes first, let's say, and then you set up, you get your Larvesta active, you attach 1 energy. If you can Wally it, you're going to Solar Birth on turn 1, which is amazing. And that's the whole reason Wally's here. Apart from that, he really just, you can Battle Compressor him away and never think about him again if you don't need to. Because he cannot, because of course Wally cannot affect EXs, so he cannot get you your Primal Kyogre. And that's important to remember. We do have a Lysander. This is especially useful based on the fact that we're going to be putting 30 damage on those EXs on the bench, so this can be a great way to pick up prizes. And of course, we can always pick on Shaman EXs that way too. We do run an AZ. We do have ways to access our energy in the discard pile if we have to. This is also a great way to use Shaman. Basically because we have those high retreats and status can be, it's always kind of an issue. I've decided to opt for this 1 AZ because it gives us, a way for our Versus Seeker to get us out of trouble, like if we get paralyzed or something like that and we really don't want to be late in the game, or we miss, our wake up on sleep or something like that. Last, we are running a Hex Maniac. This can shut down all kinds of abilities and be very utilitarian, but the main reason that it has made the cut in this deck is because of Giratina EX, because otherwise he's very problematic for us to hit. So Hex Maniac allows us to get that turn we need to really put the damage on him, and then after that, if all else fails, you can pick him off with Articuno or even Volcarona if you need to. So that does it for our supporters. We're running 4 Versus Seekers, and we're also running the 3 Battle Compressors to go with. Same plan as always. It's getting to be pretty common, and that is you Battle Compressor your 1 of supporters for your Versus Seekers, and then you take advantage of your Versus Seekers to kind of cherry pick what you need for each situation during the game. We're running 3 Ultra Balls because getting that Volcarona is very important to us, and if we're not Wallying, then obviously we'll have to have it in our hand. If we go first, of course, we can just naturally evolve him if we have the Larvesta active. But like I say, we're trying to get this stuff off consistently. These are also, of course, a very good way to get our Primal Kyogre or our Shaman EX. And also they thin our hand out for Shaman EX by discarding cards, which is nice. We did include 1 Dive Ball. If nothing else, it's a Skyla target. But this pretty much just gets the Articuno and the Kyogre EX and Primal Kyogre EX. That's why we're only running 1. And of course, Ultra Ball is more synergistic with Shaman, which gives us a lot of acceleration. So that's why we're just running the 1, but it is important to have the 1. We've opted for 2 Kyogre Spirit Links because realistically we're not going to build up 3 Primal Kyogres. So realistically, this is probably all we're going to need. One of them might get prized. That's annoying, but we can work with that. And we also are packing 2 Professor's Letter because once we get that Primal Kyogre up, taking advantage of that alpha growth is absolutely crucial. So we want to make sure that we have those 2 energy in hand every time, so that when we're sending that energy back to our benched Pokemon to set them up, we're still able to attack every turn. So we are opting for 2 of those. And we also have 1 energy retrieval, because sooner or later somebody's going to get knocked out. You're going to have to do something crazy like pay a 4 energy retreat, hopefully not, but stuff like that happens. You might have to discard some energies to an Ultra Ball or a Sycamore. This is a great way. This is essentially just another Professor's Letter for you, and it functions in much the same way. It just wants to access the discard pile instead of your deck. That's all there is to it. We've opted for 3 switches here. Like I say, those 4 energy retreats can be painful, and sometimes you can't get those 2 energies back on for your next Tidal Storm. So this helps us get around that, and if nothing else, your Primal Kyogres can sort of baton pass energies between each other by you using Switch. And that way you don't have to do something like AZ or Pay or Retreat or anything, hopefully. And of course, these get around status, and they're just useful in general. You can opt for 2 switches and an escape rope, but I think most of the time we just want to switch and keep whatever's active active. But that is in many ways just kind of how you're feeling about it. Alright, now stadium-wise, Rough Seas might seem like the knee-jerk reaction, but since we're putting 30 damage on a lot of benched Pokemon, we don't want to accidentally help our opponents. We don't want to see, like, let's say, Seismitoad EX on the bench, get knocked down to 150 with the secondary effect of your Tidal Storm, only to get it Rough Seased off, and then he's taking 2 hits from you whilst item locking you. That's not cool. So, we don't really need a stadium in particular, but Shrine of Memories is a nice utilitarian stadium. You can basically use it just to get rid of your opponent's stadium, or you can use this to access Kyogre EX's attacks under Primal Kyogre. And both of those are pretty useful. If you don't, say, want to necessarily move those energies off with your Tidal Storm, you can access Kyogre EX's second attack for 140 damage, which is pretty much just as good, and not quite as painful because you're sending those energies back to your hand, and you can just Alpha Growth them back on. And if all else fails, you can Water Pulse. You can also do that to hit things that you want to at least keep status, set them up for a knockout on the next turn, etc. It doesn't really do anything for anybody else except Primal Kyogre, but that's okay because that's what our deck is about, is Primal Kyogre. Last but not least, we're running a complement here, a pretty big complement of 12 water energies because that is the energy we want. We run no special energies, so Enhanced Hammer and Zerosic are largely pretty useless against us. And that is our primary energy, but we do have a 13th energy that is Fire. Kyogre has 1 colorless and all his attack costs at least, both the primal and the regular one, so this Fire energy doesn't hurt him at all. You can easily attach it without any backlash. It's just to enable Volcarona to attack if you need him to. And otherwise, it doesn't really matter. You can Alpha Growth that thing on with a water energy and it's never going to come back to bite you at all. So it's just a nice piece of utility that can give you options in challenging situations. And oftentimes it's the decks that have the options versus the ones that don't that end up winning in the end. So anyway, until next time, like, comment, subscribe, check me out on Twitter, my link is below, and I will see you next time.